One, two, and three. Here we are.
Hello, hello.
There you are. Welcome,
Hello, everyone.
everyone. Dozens upon dozens upon dozens.
Realistically, I'm talking to myself when I listen to this again later. So, like, hello, future me.
Yeah.
It's past me.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the mistakes I made that you're
Yeah.
paying. Sorry I didn't invest in a 401k.
Oh, past me. You were so innocent back then.
I like this, man.
This was before you knew about your terrible, terrible tumor.
You never know.
Um,
It's not a tumor.
all right, so today we want to talk about Blade Runner 2049.
Yes, yes. Well,
You kind of
argued.
you kind of were the one that suggested it. Like, so what was your like? Why did you just pick that? Did you just see it recently or something? Or
I did see it recently. I highly regret missing it in theaters. I
yeah,
was always a huge fan of the first film. Not particularly the first time I saw it because I was so confused because they don't straight up just tell you anything.
mm,
You have to kind of have to decode it while watching it.
yeah,
And it's one of those films that like you can kind of get lost in the visuals and like how beautifully it's shot and like edited and like the design like and then like the story is a little confusing until you understand it like after you first watch it and then the more you watch it the better and better it gets you pick up on foreshadows and like things that were established that you didn't really pick up on and like the new film came out and it's exactly the same similar thing.
I was actually gonna say that. I was gonna say I was actually literally about to stop and say, are you talking about the original or the new one?
Well,
Because that's
I
the
was initially
experience of the second one as well. So I mean,
it is.
they did a really good job of that.
Although
Like,
I will say the first one is like I don't think you can give it to audiences mostly because it's like there's 5 different versions, so people are like, oh, I gotta watch the first one and watch the sequel, and like okay, there's 5 versions of the original, and if you at home have watched the original and there was a voiceover in the ending, you watched the wrong version because the studio was like, this is too depressing for public for public release, so like they decided at the end of the first film. Oh, let's just have like a wide camera, like helicopter shot of the woods with a voiceover explaining stuff. And Ridley Scott's like, that's retarded. And the studio's like, we don't care. That's what we're gonna do. And they did that. And then it took them about 20 years to release the actual ending.
yeah, I think I saw the only one I've seen. I don't think I saw that original one, but that's the thing. There's like 5 different edited versions of it, right? That are out there. Like Ridley Scott keeps playing around with it. So I mean, I saw the one
He
without.
Lucased it.
Yeah, he Lucased it, but as far as I know, like it's not the same. Like Lucas kind of tinkered with like the dumbest things, where it's like
By adding like he added CGI random creatures in the background that were completely unnecessary.
yeah. Ridley Scott, as far as I know, didn't do that. He just keeps messing around with the ending, which is actually kind of even more like critical. Actually, you
But
would have preferred he Lucased it because like you're like you change the film when you change the ending. Like
Exactly.
now it's a different movie. You know what I mean? It's like if you just like, oh, I just wanted to put a little alien with a hat over here. Like, okay, like, well, thanks for making us buy another DVD with that, but at least it doesn't change the movie.
The thing is, like, there's so many big questions in those films, and like you've changed the ending 5 times, yet you haven't answered any of these questions. You've just you've risen more questions.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the new one. Absolutely
So
effing loved the new.
so you just saw it like for the first time recently.
I watched it for the first time roughly a month ago, and I think I've watched it about 5 times since.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I've been on a Blade Runner binge.
Just a binge of one thing.
A binge of one thing. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, it also is like when it got released, there were like short films as well that went online that gave you the backstory to what's the actor's name from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Batista.
Batista. Like there was a short film focusing more on his character. Then there's another short establishing what happens between the first one and the second one.
Yeah, I'll say this. I very much agree with your point that it would have been a much better, or not much better, but I really wish I would have saw that in theaters. I waited. It's funny, man. It's like People are such sons of bitches, and I'm including myself in this, of course. That it's like this is like the thing you all want. You say like, this is what we want. This is what we want. Yeah, yeah, this, and then it's like it comes out, and then you don't see it. You know,
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, then you wonder why you don't get movies like that.
Yeah.
Because like this is exact. You know, in a lot of ways, it's exactly like the kind of thing you're always complaining about you don't get in movies. I mean, but it is a sequel, like, so. I mean, there's a little bit of that same sort of like repetitiveness,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a very well done sequel. It's not
It's
like it doesn't feel like derivative. It feels like it was it was very artistically valid, like what they
Mhm.
did. It didn't feel totally. Maybe from the studio's perspective, it was a cheap money grab, but the people that made it put like a lot of effort into it, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Like
and
there was a lot of passion, blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, and or all clearly all the people that made it were like huge fans of the original. That they wanted to do a service to the original, but also making this its own standalone film. I don't necessarily think you need to watch the original to watch this one.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a
But
lot of like things in there though. Like it does help like build that out. Like
oh, if you do watch the original and you understand it, the second one is like 100 times better because like simple things like the ending with I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending scene with Ryan Gosling is a quick. It's like it's a reference to the ending of the original film, which if you haven't seen that, you probably wouldn't get like the like emotionally or
you
understand.
can I think you can spoil both of them. Anyone who I
Well,
mean,
even he kind of dies, but he doesn't die. They leave it open ended. But the way he dies is very similar to the antagonist dies in the first one, where it was very poetic. Given the biggest difference is like rather than main character, the character dying in the rain, he died with snow falling on him, which I have to say is an element I very much loved in the new films that weren't in the original. And that's one of those things that like they changed it, like so it's
and the
it's
next one they'll die with steam falling on them somehow.
steam or liquid hard magma falling from the sky.
No, water in all its various stages. Sorry.
But one thing I did notice with the film was like that I was a little disappointed upon when I first watched it is because when I watched Blade Runner, it's become such a cult classic, and like so many films that take place in the future have taken reference from that. I was so excited to just have those like wide establishing shots where you see the city and all the lights and like the billboards and like how beautifully stunning it is. And then as the movie started, those shots are very beautiful, but it's not the same. There's no lights everywhere. Like everything looks like a ghost town almost. Like
In the original,
and,
you're saying?
no, in the new one. In the original, like all
Yeah.
the buildings have lights. Like you can see like
Yeah.
the individual windows of like in the buildings, kind of like if you were looking at the city skyline.
I mean, there's some like parts where he's kind of like in the city at the beginning, but you're right. A lot of it is spent kind of like outside of the city and like in that sort of like Charlie, the director's name, Villeneuve, is how I'm gonna say it. Like he does a
Oh,
lot
butcher, because I can't even bother trying to
Yeah.
pronounce that guy's name.
his
Fantastic
movie
job.
his movies have a certain tint to them,
Yeah.
like a certain like yellow like coloring that's like in the background, and like there's a lot of kind of like things that kind of look like that. Although I mean there is some of that in the city.
They're stylized, but yeah. It was just weird seeing, when you think of the future, you think everything's going to be better, more technologically advanced, and like in Blade Runner, the first one, it's like dark and gritty and weathered, and it kind of looks like they're just barely functioning outside of like poverty for the most part, except for the extreme rich. You pretty much see the polar opposites of the civilians, which are like almost on like a poverty level, and then there's the extreme rich of the.
You're talking about this is the original?
It's in both. This is both films. Actually.
Yeah, well, I remember in the
But I'm
original.
talking more than you.
Yeah, I remember in the original it was supposed to kind of be like the lower dregs of society as well, because they were on Earth, which had been sort of ravaged by war. It was like what was that thing called like radiation everywhere, and like the only people that were left on there were like replicants and people that were like genetically inferior, like were not allowed to travel.
And they couldn't afford to travel to other worlds. 'Cause
Or
the
they
whole point-
just weren't allowed because it's like we don't want your dirty disease on our new world.
Exactly.
It's like you.
Which is funny to think. You think the future's going to be much brighter and better, and like you go to this version, and it's the future of another future, And it's like, wow, it got worse. It got way, way worse.
Well, not necessarily. That's that kind of the interesting thing. It's like maybe if you were on one of the other like colonized planets that the replicants were made to colonize, and
Mhm.
where like all the higher class people are living, maybe they're living in like the utopian version of this world, and then when you just
Absolutely.
go to the, but you're spending all your time in the bottom rung of society, so it's like the worst version of the world.
Exactly. It's very similar to like how Wall-E interpreted Earth, where it's just trash everywhere and it's kind of destroyed, while the rest of humanity's kind of in like a utopian spaceship.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they could be living that Wally world,
Hmm.
outside of this. These guys are out here fighting for their lives, and people are just sitting in big chairs, like fat as all hell, having nutrients pumped into their veins.
Yeah. Oh, and the movie is just, it's very deep. It makes you think. Like you leave that film just trying to think of like, not so much about how to make sense of everything, of just like all the questions that bring up. Because there's a big theme of like born, not made, and the concepts of like what is it to be human, what makes uh, like are your thoughts, and if like say someone programs like, and then also the concept of dreams, uh, very very deep. Like you could honestly watch this film over and over again, pick up little things and like debate it and its ideals. Uh, uh,
Yeah, I'm not really sure what their ideals were in terms of that, but like the second you start to, anytime you start to think or you start to deal with androids, like it's
mhm.
just an inherent question in there. It's like it doesn't even have to be something you're trying to explore, but the inherent question of like, if you can make something that acts in the way that we act, like at what
Mhm.
point does it become human? It's like, what is the special thing that embodies us with a soul? You
Yeah,
know,
what's the separate thing? What's
like the
what's
reason,
the line between imitation and an original
yeah, it's
person?
like um in that movie, I think like the reason birth was important because it was like the only like one of the few only distinguishing features you could really have from a human. It's like they're looking at me, they're laughing, they're smiling. As I
Hmm.
respond to jokes, so it all feels human. It's like for all intents and purposes, I can't tell the difference. So what does that make it human or not?
Yeah.
And I also like the kind of idea though that's also explored in there with the way, is there something like, is there like a plane like coming into your, is that for me or you?
I haven't. Oh, let me close the. Wait, nope. It's a fan. I thought I turned it off. It got louder.
Yeah,
There we go.
I think maybe that's
Oh,
what that was.
how is
All
that?
right, now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, I was
Does it
just saying.
straighten your thoughts?
Oh, choo choo, there it goes. Hold on, I'll be right back.
I should choose you. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
uh,
I completely derailed you.
yeah, I just sort of, I saw somebody kind of making this point about it, where it's like
Hmm.
what it takes to live in like a society like this. Like Ryan Gosling is he's a replicant, and he works
Yes.
for the government. He works for the police department or whatever they call it in the
Hmm.
future. Hunting down and like killing his own people, and like I kind of like that idea of where it's like to function in a society you have to be like a cold, like remorseless like killer, and be willing
Yeah.
to destroy your own, like kill your own kind to
Hmm.
to live.
And it makes sense if these are super powered beings. Of course, you're going to grab a super powered being to take them out. You're not going to hire a human to destroy an android. That doesn't make sense. They're going to get their arms ripped off.
Yeah, well, obviously, why wouldn't you just build another robot? But
Which was an interesting concept that Ryan Gosling's character brought up when he was given the order to kill someone that he thought was born. And he's like, I never thought the person that gave him the orders, like, is that a problem? And he's like, oh, I've never killed anything that was born before. And she's like, what's the difference?
yeah,
And she's like, is that a no? And he's like, I didn't even know that was an option. Because he was
yeah,
programmed to do anything he was told to do. Because at the end of the day, he's a replicant, which is a cyborg in the society.
yeah, and it's also you start to wonder, it's like as we start going forward in technology, with technology and the option to take away more and more, hardships and more uh, just to like get rid of more things that we don't like now. It's like you'll start to lose some of your humanity, or you start to lose like the experience of what it is to be a human now, and then you have to start to wonder, it's like, are we still human? I think that's the other question that's sort of like embedded in this sort of thinking. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm a human being and I'm living in a world where it's like I don't have like disease, I don't get old, I don't I don't feel sadness, all my pleasures are constantly met. That's not the world that you and I live in right now. Like obviously we're not living in pure bliss, in pure satiated bliss. Like so, how are is that thing that's living in there still a human like us, or is it something different? And like, what does that do to like the soul, or what does that do to the person or the soul? Like, that's sort of my. Well, actually, the first time I saw the movie, I was like you. I was very much just lost in the visuals of it. Like it is totally like just a gorgeous thing like to look at.
It's so stunning, even though it is a dark and gritty and like weathered like world. It's stunning to look at. Maybe it's all the neon lights. It's beautiful. Which I also, the side note of the visuals, it's funny to see how like gritty and everything the real world is with the average person. And then when you see people in luxury, the people that have the most wealth, they're surrounded by water and wood. And if you remember how Ryan Gosling took a shower, it was like a spit, like someone just like the shower head just spit at it. It's like, here's 95% pure water. That's his shower for the day. Just literally, like someone just took a hose on the lawn and just sprayed him, kind of like a dog. And like the people that live in luxury have a room, just walls. Like, there's wood everywhere, which in the society there's no trees. Like one person, like he had a photo of a tree, and they're like, "What's that?" He's like, "It's a dead tree." He's like, "That's weird. You don't see those much often."
Yeah, or like that's so, like the hooker he's talking to. He's like, "I've never seen a tree before."
Which is like interesting seeing how like things reverse, where it's kind of like in today's society you think of like, oh, if you're technologically advanced, you're wealthy. Yeah, if you're surrounded by technology, and if you're like surrounded by nature, you kind of don't have as much income or whatever. Where in this world, it's kind of reversed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that people live in the. I guess I would just disagree that people who are poor today live in like the woods. So I would say they live in like the cities. Like they kind of live closer into that, like into the like the to where like his apartment is, like in like the classic Blade Runner. Like that's kind of where I would. That's sort of the way. I mean, I guess though. I mean, there's people in the backwoods. I don't know.
I didn't explain that properly.
Yeah. But there is, I'll say one criticism of the movie. It is like it does feel very long, like the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the way like that, like Charlie Villeneuve, like the way he does like his movies. Like you've seen his other movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Didn't he do?
He did Arrival. I believe he did what was the one with Jake Gyllenhaal where he's got like the two of them. He did.
Did he do Source Code? Was it Source Code?
No,
not Source Code.
He didn't do Source Code. He did The Prisoners. That was another one he did.
I
just named you three, you motherfucker.
I know, but there's one specific one in my head that I'm trying to remember. That was
the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? Because he was in Source Code.
Villeneuve.
Yeah, he did Sicario also.
Sicario, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys did a lot. Not many commercially big films. Oh my God, he's pre-producing Dune. I guess they're remaking Dune.
Yeah. Well, he's got the visual talent for it. I'll say this about his movies, though. He holds an excruciating pace in his movies, It's all very, like, they all have that thing about them where they're slow. They're, like, very, like, heavy. Like, I think of him sort of like a David Fincher. Like, their movies are kind of similar to me in the way, like, they hold tension. Like, it's like... in every scene.
They just let it build up, man.
Yeah, like, in the and things are, like, the camera's just, like, going slowly, like... and as it keeps going. We're halfway across the room.
Why is this taking so long?
Yeah, exactly. The characters are just sitting there looking at their watch, like waiting for the camera to get on them.
I just picture Ryan Gosling like in his car, and you see that scene of him flying through the city, and it's just like noise, and then like in his passenger seat is just some guy with that like Australian like instrument where you blow into it.
Yeah.
Just blowing into a didgeridoo. He's like, "Can you please stop doing that?" No, man, it's Blade Runner. We need this all the time.
Yeah, exactly. This makes it tense. Yeah, so his films all have that like to them, and it's kind of like an oppressively slow style. It's like you have to really be like, down for the cause if you're gonna watch that kind of movie. And like that movie's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's like it's not like a quick movie in 240. Like that's what I saw Ridley Scott said that like that was his criticism of films, like it was way too fucking long.
And he produced it, and his one was way worse. I think this should have sold significantly better and is more appealing and not a lot more fast paced, which is not something you're gonna hear about this film. It's way more fast-paced, the new film, as opposed to the original.
Yeah, well, it does have more, like, kind of, like, action-y. Like, it's not, like, set-piece actions, but, like, there's just stuff going on, like him fighting the girl in the car, and when they break into his or they shoot into his Las Vegas apartment, like, stuff like that. Like, at the beginning, he fights that replicant. So, I mean, there is stuff to, like, like, kind of just give you that little...
Keep you entertained,
yeah. But
otherwise,
honestly...
you're just kind of stuck there with, continue.
No, but honestly, like, just looking at the film, like, is kind of enough, for me, anyway. But you really do have to be in a mood where you're willing to concentrate. That's also another... I think there's two reasons why it didn't sell as well as I think it should have for as good of a film as it is. One, I think it's, like I said, you have to really be concentrating. Like, you can get lost in that movie, and it is slow, and that's just obviously, like, we're losing your training, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just like a muscle, I think. And we watch so many Marvel movies now where it's like you're used to a certain pace of film. Where it's like zoopity boop 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 ba 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 on to the next thing, and then and then more like getting into that. It's like what the hell is going on? It's like if you're anticipating like a beat and it's not there, like you're going like what the fuck, So like
why is it so long?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's better now considering it's on DVD. Like I'll admit, the first time I watched it, as soon as I got to the halfway point, we're like, wow, I can't wait to get to the next part. I fell asleep.
Yeah, I fell asleep the first time too.
And I was thinking about it, and it was like, I think this is
kind of like
a
Space
films.
Odyssey. Like, remember we were talking about Space Odyssey? How it's not a film you like. The experience of watching it isn't initially like the most enjoyable thing. It's not cotton candy fun. But
it's an acquired taste that takes time to develop.
But like you appreciate it.
Yeah, it gets richer the more you have it, and the more you watch it. I was going to say something else. It completely escaped.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. What was I going to say?
We could sit here all day. We'll just
insert Jeopardy theme song.
Scratch the beard. Thing.
Oh, let's move on to something.
I was going to say the second. I'll tell you then why, since you can't think of it. Just the second reason I think it didn't do well was because like the marketing of it was like they were very secretive about their marketing, right? Like,
well, you can't talk about the film without spoiling it, which is like, and if you watch interviews, it's like, oh, can you tell us about the film? They're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't really work out that well.
Yeah, it's like you have to like, J.J. Abrams, his marketing company or whoever does it. I assume like they're kind of they kind of do it themselves. Like they do that like they're really good at creating like that internet like buzz around it where like they give you little Easter eggs and it's like, ooh, we made a fake like like Tyrell website or whatever, and like you go on there and you click on stuff and just giving things out for the fans to get them like excited and pumped up and like make it like zeitgeisty. But they just have that total thing of like, we're not talking about it. It's like, all right, then like no one's gonna know when it's out. Like
it did genuinely rely on like it being a cult classic that people would come in, and then the fact that they had it starring Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford. to sell tickets without actually establishing plot or like what's going on.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily work out. I remembered what I was going to say before, which
Okay,
was
perfect.
it's one of those films that theaters don't do this anymore. But I think it needed an intermission. I think it should have taken those two short films that were on YouTube that were like 10 minutes each, added in, which it's going to sound crazy. I'm saying make it longer, but add an intermission. Add in the middle of the film when Ryan Gosling has that epiphany of like, oh shit, I could be human.
Yeah. Let him go into the woods, or let him go into the parking lot, smoke another joint, and then come back in for the second half.
No joke, but seriously, have like 15 minutes. Let the audience leave the theater, go get more candy because you're gonna need to stay awake for another hour and a half. Get more soda. Think about it for a minute. Talk about it amongst themselves. Go back to your seat and then continue the film. To have a film that long back to back, it's very exhausting. I remember seeing Lord of the Rings and being tired.
Oh yeah, and Lord of the Rings is not nearly as as this like I was talking about that style where it's like it really drags things for you.
Yeah,
that is a great idea. It really did need an intermission. I would have loved that if I could have just go out, stretch my legs a little bit, see the fresh air, know that there's more noises than didgeridoo.
That gloomy world.
Yeah.
Oh, there's sun.
Yeah.
Oh, it burns.
Yeah. And those movies are like it is a little bit sad, those movies, because it sort of like questions the idea of a soul, like the concept of the movie only works sort of intrinsically if you believe there isn't like a soul, right? Because if there was like a soul or heaven or anything like that, then why would you then you're endowed by your creator, then you wouldn't think that anything you made would have that same quality towards it.
All your actions in life are completely different if you think that there's no consequences.
It's not even that there's just no consequences. If there is no soul, then there is no difference between a human and a well-made robot. Because if there's no soul, then we are just neurons firing, firing and reacting and to the different kind of stimulus and whatever. Our genetics and our environment will determine the way we act in response, and then there's nothing, outside of that, and so you don't really deal. There wouldn't be a difference. Would be like the ultimate thing. It's like what makes a human a human. There's nothing that makes a human a human. A human is just a collection of cells lumped together, doing actions.
We're just meat and thoughts.
Yeah,
meats and actions. We're little tiny microorganisms.
We're just matter and meat, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny because if you brought the question up to me after watching the first film, I definitely would have been like, the replicants are always in the battle of am I a person? Am I not a person? Are these my own ideas? Are these my memories? Does that make me a person?
Yeah.
And if you watch Blade Runner, the first one, I would argue, yeah. If you're making your own decisions, you're not doing some pre-programmed thing. You're making your own actions. You're making your own decisions. You're a free thinking thing. Yeah, you have a level of humanity. And then after watching the new one, it made me unthink that whole thing because of the whole concept with Joy. Because they got you to love this character or see this character initially as, oh, you're just an artificial intelligence.
Right.
And then they kind of established oh, she really cares for Ryan Gosling. And then it gets to the scene where she hires the
Joy
prostitute.
is his artificial girlfriend. She's like a hologram that is programmed to give whatever she's just kind of the perfect girlfriend. It's just a hologram and it's a reflection of
She's essentially her from the Joaquin Phoenix or Siri. So imagine Siri on your phone, but it had a hologram and it actually looked like a real person that could interact with you in a way, but you can't actually see it because it's just a projection.
Yeah.
But it has. From what it seems, it cares for you. It asks how's your day. If you're not feeling in particularly good mood, it'll cheer you up. And which is what the first scene is. Ryan Gosling comes in after a long day, and she's like, "Oh, let's go dancing. Do you want to eat this?" And he's like, "No, No, no, no. Until it gets to the point where she starts talking to him, and she notices it gets his attention, and then it just focuses on that. So you can kind of see the from a computer standpoint, the AI trying to figure out, oh, what do I need to do to make him happy? Because that's the whole concept of the product of
Yeah.
what is joy. It is a robot, or not a robot. It's an AI that'll tell you what you need to tell you what you want to hear
Yeah.
to make you happy. And then eventually it gets to the scene where like the AI tells. This is all spoilers. I
Yeah.
apologize to those who haven't seen it.
Well, listen, man. If you're tuning into a podcast about the movie a year after it was out, like you should have seen it. Go watch it now.
Go see it. Go see it right away. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it is.
Slow. Rent it. So you
Rent
can
it,
pause it halfway
intermission.
through.
Yeah. Get a
Give yourself that intermission.
well. First, actually, let's say how to watch it first. You go to your local impoverished area. You find a man on the corner. You buy a little bag of marijuana. You take that. You go. You go take some butter and cook that up into there. You put that in some brownies. You
Do you
eat
know?
it.
Have you ever heard of 4D cinemas? I think it's called 4D cinemas.
Is that
It's
like
a,
they
it's
spray you with stuff or like?
essentially, yeah, it's a movie theater. I've never been to it. I've only heard of it, but it's essentially like you go into the theater and if you're in a moving chair. So like during the opening crawl of Star Wars, like the chair rolls back, or if you're in a boat, if it's a boat scene, the chair will rocket. You're in a boat,
Yeah.
and like water will splash in your face and all
I
that
saw
stuff.
this I was in a 4D theater for A Bug's Life. It was like,
Interesting.
a bee was like attacking the bug and like
And they released hornets into the theater.
I saw the funniest thing. They're making a Sherlock Holmes movie with Will Ferrell and John C. Riley.
Yeah, it's
You s-
probably the first time I'm excited for a Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, like when they bust open the beehive thing and he's shooting at the bees with his guns. That had me dying. But
But I was gonna
yeah,
say, like, I wish there I don't know if there was a 4D experience for this movie, but I would have loved to get. Maybe it would have been a bad one considering the food would have been worms and it would have been snowing the entire time.
yeah, right.
Uh, yeah, go all out. Go have a 4D experience. Have someone throw ice at you
Yeah, they
and eat
release
worms.
radiation into the theater so you can get a taste of what Earth looks like in 30 years, apparently. Near 30 years.
Oh yeah, that would
Yeah.
be very interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think about Harrison Ford's performance in the film? Even though it didn't come in till like the last quarter,
Yeah.
uh, I
Uh,
think he acted more in this film than he has in anything in the last 2 decades.
yeah.
He
Well,
earned that paycheck,
definitely. I mean, I'm sure.
especially in that scene when he was in a cell, not a cell, in like a car getting drowned. Like, Harrison, we need you to act. He's like, I don't act anymore. It's like, we're like, we're gonna strap you to this car and like slowly move it into the water and then splash cold water in you for a few days. We're paying you.
Yeah, all right, I'll sit in the water.
Okay. Okay.
That wasn't the scene where I thought he's really earning his chops back there. I was kind of focused on the fight that was going on.
Oh no, I was all in on Harrison Ford just being like, wow, he's really working it for this one.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, he phoned it in. In Indiana Jones, he phoned it in. He just cashed that paycheck. He worked for every penny in this film.
I thought there was you were saying something though about joy, like about how.
Oh, so I was mentioning how like the first film I would put up the debate like yes, if you are a free thinking being, no matter what, even if it's artificial, if you're free thinking and you have your own ideals and you act upon it, you are. No, I genuinely don't think there's a difference between you and a person, aside from like the flesh and bones that you're made. But replicants in the new one are just as identical to humans.
You
The only
don't
difference
think
is
you're saying
CGI.
that to you it's like like there is no difference between a human and a cyborg if the cyborg is doing the things that like appear human.
Uh,
Like
uh, well, not even appear. They are human. Like if you're a
yeah,
free
so
thinking,
yeah, so I
it's
guess
like the
yeah,
debate
yeah.
of like an animal being really an intelligent animal. It's like, at what point is an animal? Is it like humane to murder an animal if it's like a dumb chicken, or an intelligent dolphin, or like an
Yeah. So
intelligent
you
gorilla that
think,
sign language.
yeah,
I
because the
think
robot like would feel pain and fear and all these things, like at that point where they were at their society, it would be immoral to treat it as just, like you would treat your toaster or something.
in a sense,
Is
the
that is
thing is
that
like there's a divide. I don't want to say it has they have a soul or it's a person, but I genuinely don't think there's much of a difference between the two, and I don't think it should matter when it's that identical.
Yeah,
But then when
well,
it came to
certainly if it can feel pain, like you would, it would feel unethical to like, to hurt it,
yeah,
even if you say, like, say it's a lower level of, sentience, like a
yes,
dog,
hmm
just because you don't treat it like a human doesn't mean it's not, you can just hit it, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's how I felt about the first film
Yeah.
when after what's it called, seeing that main character develop, the Harrison Ford's love interest develop and identify, and how that film progressed. And then when I watched this film, the new one, I started to feel that way about Joy, the artificial intelligence, until you start seeing the advertisements, and you're like, wow, everything she did, it was pre-programmed. It wasn't a free-thinking thing. Although
Mm.
it's very debatable when she hired the hooker
That
so
was
she
that was
can.
another like very like beautiful looking scene. Just the way like it was so
Dude,
cool the way like the
best sex scene
finger
I've ever seen.
yeah, the way like her finger like it was like you were seeing the lag of her like trying to follow the
hmm
person she was on top of like her hands like it just looked cool.
It's very interesting concept, beautifully shot. Uh, Interesting concept because because there's like little parts where like you're like, wow, this AI really cares for Ryan Gosling's character. Like when he starts to think that maybe he could be human, she's like, oh, you should have a name. She's like, he's like, no, I don't, no, don't even get that in my head. She's like, you look like a Joe. He's like, what? He's like, you look like a Joe. I'm like, okay, I'm Joe. And then
I like the way you do him. You make him be like the way you're like And I remember him being kind of like like he's like I mean he's a robot like so he
oh
talks
yeah,
like a
everyone's
robot. You're
going,
like bitch, get out of my face with that.
get out of my,
I ain't
get
gonna
out
be
of here,
no
Joy.
yeah. Get, woman, get off me, woman. I ain't gonna be no Joe. Sorry.
No, and then like later you see an advertisement, and she's like, the advertisement's just like, "You look like a good Joe." I'm like, "Oh my God, you played with my emotions. You made me think she was caring because she hired a hooker to pretend to be and sleep with her husband, with her owner." And then like you find out later, like, oh, this was a pre-programmed thing, which I have to say, I have
This is your version of love. I thought you loved me. You bought me a hooker, and now it turns out that was nothing. That meant nothing to you.
how dare you? I feel broken.
Yeah.
Imagine the day in the future when Apple releases Siri as a hologram, and then the hologram hires a stripper so it could put its hologram body over the stripper and then
Then,
sleep with you.
yeah, then I'll
What's
know it's true love.
what's the terms and conditions going to be like? Is that a simple approved? Do you have to? Is there a subscription fee you have to pay? Like what's going on with this Apple?
Yeah.
Because it is kind of a way. It's more of a. It kind of mocks how I don't know, tech companies and all that stuff. I'm just curious because
Yeah.
that's the one concept that did someone pre-program that? Is that does every device do that?
Just asking for a friend, asking for a friend. Ha 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 ha.
Just do the toasters in the future?
Yeah. I like also the how the most like human act in both of them were kind of end up being done by the replicants.
Yeah.
Like that's how they end up finding their humanity. It's like they end up well in the original like Roy Beatty I think is the name of the robot played by Dennis Hopper. Is that who did that? I can't even remember his name.
I
No,
don't remember the
Michael
name.
Rorker. Some totally
Some of
bad.
it. Hmm.
Wait, now I have to know because I think I got it right the second time, and I'd be
Put
pretty
it up
proud of
to the
myself.
internet.
Yeah, I got the character's name right.
But you're 100% right, dude. The most human characters in these movies are the ones that aren't human. Which is another thing that supports the debate of like what it is to be human or what is humanity. Like the few humans we do know in this film,
Rutger Hauer, that's who
the
played it.
which phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but like he makes the choice not to kill. Like he goes against like his programming, and
to not
decides
kill
to
Harrison Ford.
and decides
And
not
that's
to kill Harrison Ford's character Decker. And then in
Decker,
this
yeah.
one, like, similarly, Ryan Gosling like makes the choice to save, well, once again, like to save Decker and to go against, not to listen to uh, what he's being programmed to do by his overlords.
Which is like, what is that not a human trait of like being told to do something and then not doing it because you feel it's morally wrong, or you decide as a person not to do that?
Yeah, or just seeing something, greater uh, than just like following like the orders and getting along to
Yeah.
get along. Having a higher ideal than simply what's being than what is simply programmed into you. Like I do like that I definitely like that aspect of the movies a lot, and that's the part of it that gives you that sort of slight optimism in a awash in a sea of bleary nihilism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at least there is that thing that we can transcend. At least a little bit. Yeah.
Uh, this film is like really really interesting. I'm trying to remember what human characters there were. There was the female chick that was in House of Cards, who
Uh,
didn't make a face when her hand was being crushed with glass.
yeah.
She,
Owie.
Owie! I think anyone would have made a cringe or a face. I'm like,
The
what
director
kind
was
of?
was sitting off screen like, pain. You're in pain. Your motivation's pain. She's like,
She's
nope.
like, I have no pain.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's not the way to play it. What are you doing? Scream.
I just got. I've been doing a feature. I've been doing a series of Kevin Spacey for years. This is nothing.
Yeah, right. That is such like a painful thing. Have the glass smashed in your hand like that.
Yeah,
It's pretty
man.
awesome.
Just like, and like she showed no emotion, which in a later interview she said that she did that as a means of like standing up to show like she could put up to as a human we could put up against like robots. But in my eyes, I didn't
Okay, tough
pick it up at
guy.
all. I was like, what painkillers? What painkillers are there in the future where like
Yeah.
you could a robot could crush your hand with glass in it? And you're like, ah, whatevs.
Yeah, I did that to show, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure she kills you 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that to show that, like, when these super smart beings, like, hey, we're pretty tough too. It's like if robots at that level wanted to kill us, like, all they could. Don't try to like tough guy him up. It's like I can take a punch, I could take a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could take several bullets and they would just bounce off my metal frame.
Which also in that glass was whiskey. Wouldn't the whiskey
Burn?
like,
Yeah,
the open
it's
wounds?
burning. Ooh,
Ouchies. this
double
burns.
pain, double pain.
Yeah. Not cool, chick. I don't know. Which also that character that crushed the cup her name is Joy, which is kind of, I don't know if the writer thought of it, but Ryan Gosling, not Joy. Yeah, his Joy is the AI, and then Love is
I
the
think her name. I
antagonist?
think her name is Love.
So Love kills Joy.
I'm not.
So why-
I'm not sure.
Love-
You might be reading
Love-
too much into that one. I'm not sure how that
Look at
works
names.
allegorically.
Love kills Ryan Gosling's
I
Joy.
think we have
It literally crushes her.
we have the plot of the next Inside Out. When love kills joy.
Yeah.
Like I
It's a
don't.
little poetic.
But I don't know what that means.
Either do I.
It's like, what
Especially
is,
because
like, how does love kill joy in like an outside
life,
sense? Yeah.
love kills joy all the time. My
Yeah,
friend.
it sounds like one of those things like takes like rip of joint, like love kills. I don't know why I'm talking about weed so much today. It's not like I am currently under the influence or anything. I just that's the third time I brought it up. But yeah, but it's like whoa, love kills joy means everything. Like I'm not sure that means anything. Like
Oh man, just insert
right?
the meme of Elon Musk smoking. Just be like,
Yeah.
love kills joy, man.
Yeah, the one where it's like, and then like
Like,
considering.
oh, you're right.
Yeah. If I don't think about it, it makes sense.
Uh,
Love kills joy.
what else is there? I didn't. Some criticism I'll give the film. I can't just praise it undyingly. The Replicant Rebellion seemed like a derailed off the course of what the whole theme was with humanity and ideals. And it's just because at the end of it, it's like, oh, join our cause, and he's just like, who are you people? And then if you do the research, it's like, oh yeah, you're the terrorist robot organization that caused a blackout that basically destroyed the Earth. Uh, he's like, yeah, sure.
Why not?
Why not?
Well, now we can look forward to some editing of this. They do like a million edits of this one.
Oh, my bad.
What's that?
No. Oh, you're not supposed to curse?
No, no, no. Fuck it.
Fudge.
Fudge it. Fuck it.
Fudge it. Frack it?
Fug the fudge. What were you gonna say though?
I don't remember because my mind it just clicked into my head because I said frack. What's the difference between a cyborg, a Cylon, and a replicant? I think they're all the same, right? What are the robots in Alien?
I thought this was going to be a joke.
No, it does sound like
What's the difference?
joke.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
A
They're all
replicant, and
fighting for humanity.
I think it's just like, well, I think it's determined by what's on the inside for the aliens. What are the ones in Aliens? I think they're just cyborgs, and those are like have like green, gooey insides. Replicants.
Was it green? I thought it was white.
Yeah, it was like it was like a very pale green with like white or surrounding as I remember.
Like Michael Fassbender's character in the newer Alien films or Prometheus.
I really like the Michael Fassbender character in the new ones.
Why does he want to kill humanity? Like, who's designing these robots to sleep with people, to hire hookers and sleep with them, and then murder humanity and then experiment?
I know which future I'm going into.
Like, no matter what I don't know. Maybe it's like different brands. I like to imagine it's all the same universe.
This is a damn
Alien
Samsung.
universe and Blade Runner. They are technically all made by Ridley Scott in a way, so let's call it the Ridley Scott cinematic universe.
Yeah, if you go, I would definitely.
Whoever's designing these robots needs to get like another job or like I don't know, go into therapy or something.
Definitely, they need to. They need to go to the R&D department and start chopping some heads. Cause listen, our robots seem hell bent on replacing humans with aliens. And that's just not good for business. We all love aliens.
It's not good business.
Yeah, but they don't have much of an economy to speak of. They don't really got money. They more just like to eat people.
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do. And if you're a robot, it's all about ending humanity.
Yeah, but he's like an allegory for Satan or something. Apparently, I don't know. I liked him in the new ones.
He, I think, was the
Covenant.
one of the redeeming.
The
Covenant.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about where I liked him specifically. I mean, he was pretty good in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what was the one in Prometheus? That was the one before that. Covenant was like the sequel, like the semi-sequel.
Yeah. He's another fantastic actor that I honestly didn't know much about until I think X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
And he's been blowing up, man. The last like 5-10 years, he's just been killing it. Definitely an A-list actor now.
Yo, yeah, for sure. I think he kind of broke in big with those two Steve McQueen movies, Hunger and what was the other one? Shame.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Shame.
Yeah, pretty good. He was really good. I mean, those movies are a little too arty for me. Like those are the ones where they get so artistic, where it's like, or they get so just.
Experimental.
There's just no like meat on that bone. You know what I mean? It feels very
bland.
It just feels like a very bland kind of movie. But he gave a speech in there that was really good. Like if you ever want to see just someone killing the shit out of acting, the first movie I appreciate.
I have not. Which one?
Glengarry Glen Ross. I remember it took me years to find that. I must have saw that when I was like 7 or 8, and it was on TV. That Alec Baldwin speech about always be closing, and like I literally like I flipped through it when I was like watching TV, because there was no supervision in the house, and they would just let leave Showtime on and there was just this guy. I mean, I think the oldest I could have been was 10. I saw that, and it literally took me till I was in college to find out what movie that was from. and it was just
I've
always
seen
stuck
the
with
scene.
me.
I've never seen the film.
Yeah, that's a great scene. It's the rest of the film is unmemorable compared to that scene. You know. Yeah.
It's just a shame when that happens. Oh, it makes that film relevant, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's the theme that everyone quotes from there. Although I'm not sure the movie is supposed to be like celebrating that, but everyone just ends up liking them. You know, it's like that thing we were talking about the other week with Tony Soprano and like Walter White, where you have
Hmm.
these characters that it's not really you're not really supposed to root for them, but
No.
you draw them out so well and people just like them. Like
Yeah, I think
always
if
be
you
closing. People love that shit.
it's you could justify any evil. Uh, what was that? There's a quote I'm misquoting right now. Well, one of the most dangerous things about humanity is you could justify any evil in the sake for the sake of safety or for personal gain. Don't know where I was going with that.
That doesn't sound like a quote.
No,
That-
I'm definitely gonna think about it after this and be
yeah,
like, wow,
you're gonna
I
have to
butchered it.
yeah, you're gonna have to quote. You're gonna have to text me that one later because
Well, let's get to like what this really is all about. Is like when Apple releases a new device to hunt down their old devices so we can get new devices. Imagine your iPhone 10 transforms and starts hunting down iPhone 6s like it's the Terminator.
they already do that shit, man. Except like the Blade Runners are the iOS systems, like that fucking
Yeah.
crash your shit and make it like what was once a functioning phone is now a hunk of junk that runs so
Yeah.
damn slow that it's unusable.
They do it on purpose
Yeah.
with software updates.
No, that's what I'm
got-
saying. Like the software updates are the Blade Runners. Like,
Yeah.
are you an?
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, like are you an iPhone 6?
There's a new update. Would you like to update? No, I know what you're doing, Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, Decker. Like get off of my
I
ship.
genuinely got fed up with it, and I switched to Samsung actually after years and years of being a dedicated Apple fanboy. I switched out, and it's fantastic, except when they start doing it as well, because all these companies are the same. They need to sell product, and everyone needs a new phone upgrade every 2 years.
It's pretty scummy, I think, like honestly, that they that they do that. You know what I mean? It's like you're forcing me to buy another phone. Like these things are expensive. You know,
Yeah.
and like like if you're gonna force me to buy a new phone, do something that's like so remarkable that it's like I can't even believe I had a life before I had the iPhone 7. As compared to the 6. But it's like a couple extra pixels on the camera. Great. Like I can take
Genuinely,
pictures of myself that no one cares about. Or whatever.
it's minor hardware upgrades every year. It's not. They keep advertising it every year as like this revolutionary new product, and like it just looks like you just changed the camera.
Yeah,
And like
that
behind
is what
closed
it
doors,
is.
I'm like, that's all we did. We just changed the camera.
Yeah.
And instead of calling it a 10-inch screen, we called it a 10-inch Retina display. Like, oh, it's a Retina display. I have to buy this.
Yeah, hold on. I have to let my dog out. She's whining.
Yeah, go for it. All right, audience. This is the same time of every week where we coordinated with the dog to get Steve out so we can plot how to take over this podcast. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I just hear you.
Act casual. Act casual.
I
Hello, Steven.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to that one back.
So, how do you feel about being, murdered by an army, a big swarm of bees?
Don't love it. Don't hate it.
Okay. Really jotting that down for
Yeah.
the
For the next one, idea. Listen,
idea.
if this one doesn't get, if that idea doesn't get us, 100 clicks, what will? What will?
Because the dog keeps interrupting like every recording, so I'm trying to think of like an ongoing theme to go on every time it comes in. It's just funny.
Leave a little Easter egg, like
Yeah.
that they got to go back and find. You should just start reading a book like in the middle, and like you know what I mean, like, and then like every time I have to leave to get the dog, like you read another page from the book, and then in 1,000 episodes you'll have read War and Peace.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. Problem is, I don't read
Yeah, except
out
yeah,
loud.
it's gonna be hard because yeah, with dyslexia.
I'll probably read it backwards, so I'm gonna be.
Spoilers.
So next week when the dog comes in, I'm just gonna be like, and then they threw the ring into Mount Mordor, and I'm like, wait. I'm gonna tell the whole story backwards. Or I could read the narrative book of Jaws about how a shark keeps throwing up people until it turns into a very populated tourist beach.
Yeah, how how a shark throws up the kid of of a depressed woman who's angry with
Yeah.
the sheriff.
Or we could do Reservoir Dogs, where it's a story about a bunch of zombies that come back to life, so they can bring back a diamond to an exchange, and then ultimately go to a diner and then give it to them.
I love that. I love that one. That's my favorite one yet. A bunch of yeah, they go return a bunch of merchandise and then they just let's go get some food. You guys hungry? You guys want brains? Nah, just diner is all right. You guys hear that you and Donna song? That's
Sometimes
hilarious.
it's fun to reverse the narratives. What would Finding Nemo be? The a fish runs away? No, it's technically going backwards, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, no, it would be a father like a father runs out on his son and is until he's brought back by some thoughtful fisherman, right?
yeah, so ultimately, I think it would be a son goes chasing after the father. It goes on an adventure and go find its father, just so his mother can get reborn, gets spat back out with the rest of its family and have a
Mm.
happy ending.
Is that a
Happy
happy
beginning?
ending? And at
They're
some
all alive in the beginning.
at
It's a
some
Disney
point,
film, so
yeah,
everyone has to die in the beginning because you need to get people's sympathies in the first 5 minutes. That's the Pixar way.
yeah. Who do they kill in Who do they kill in Cars? The gas engine?
Uh, our childhood.
Our childhood.
I don't honestly of all the Pixar films, I don't want to be a hater, but I love Pixar. Cars is one that never really hit me, in all honesty.
Yeah.
It never really attracted to me. I never really felt for it.
Brave.
All the other ones I thought were great.
What about Brave? That was
I
another one.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
I
all.
thought I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm gonna be rewatching it. I'm definitely not the demographic for it, but I like the concept of Disney princess not having to go through the whole Disney princess um, cliffhanger, or not cliffhanger, but the whole dilemma of like you need to be saved by a man, and you have to do what you were prophesized to do. It's like you're your own thinking person. You do what you want.
Oh,
Uh,
you're so progressive.
I like that as a concept. It makes sense. Like Disney really should have kind of should have steered that way, maybe in the '90s a little bit. Although they kind of did with Mulan, right? That's what Mulan is. Actually, I take it all back.
Yeah,
They did it with Mulan.
Mulan was better. I feel like Mulan's getting a revival.
It is.
I hear more people talking about Mulan.
Mulan got greenlit for a new Disney film,
Oh, dude,
live action.
these motherfuckers are they're so sneaky. Someone's been sneaking that into the culture. When I said revival, I just mean like I've been hearing about it more.
Oh no, it got rebooted. They
Oh,
haven't released who's doing the voice of the dragon, like the one
Shere
that
Khan.
Shere Khan.
Isn't
I
that,
live. I don't remember his
isn't
name.
that
That
his
does
name?
sound right though. It does
Shere
sound
Khan.
right.
My oh, if I got that, I'm on fire today. I'm gonna check
Oh,
this out.
A+ if you do.
Yeah.
Uh, movie news alert, but yeah, they greenlit that film. They released the casting of who's going to play Mulan. They haven't released who's going to play the dragon because Eddie Murphy might just be too expensive. Although I think he'd be worth every penny because he was amazing as that character because he was hilarious. Although I could see maybe like Chris Tucker doing that role and doing really well.
Okay, and I was way off. It was Mushu.
For sure. For sure.
I'm not on fire. I just think.
Good try.
I was.
Maybe this was all a ploy ever since like that whole Szechuan sauce from Rick
Yeah.
and Morty.
I wonder if that's
Like,
actually part of it too. I really
maybe
do.
they saw like, oh, probably they probably saw like, oh, hey, why is Mulan trending? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's because of our McDonald's sauce.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? It's like 30 years or 20 years later. They're like, oh, some other show referenced it.
Yeah.
Now the internet's going crazy. Which
Well,
honestly, I have some Szechuan sauce in my fridge.
shush. You know, there's
Szechuan.
also the. Yeah, I mean that's possibly it. It's also definitely though the fact that it's like an earlier story of like female empowerment, and that's like very much like in the trend these days. Like you can't make a movie that doesn't have that, or else it gets like panned,
Yeah.
or you know,
Although if
or some version of that. You know what I mean?
no, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like
Which
people
if
are
you play
very.
that film, sorry, continue.
I was gonna say like people are very much like, and I think studios are like terrified not to have like the proper diversity, even though there's no such thing as like the proper diversity because you can always just
Hmm.
get ripped along these lines. I mean, you saw J.K. Rowling getting like,
I did. I
yeah,
think it's just it's called. I forgot. There's a phrase for it. It's outrage marketing. Essentially, the journalists and people online, like BuzzFeed, they phrase things like these ways and bring up these questions that are completely irrelevant to the story or the product or whatever, just to get a good headline like, "Oh, J.K. Rowling is racist,"
yeah, for sure,
uh, and it brings up a debate like, "Oh, why is there not more diversity?" I'm like, sometimes there's not enough diversity. It's just the story, man. Like there was the Blade Runner. This Blade Runner had that exact same issue. People are like, "Why is there not? Why is everyone a white person?"
yeah. Well, you
And I could,
know, but
I would,
but like the thing is like you know you're never gonna get every like it's 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 just like an impossible battle to win is because like or like this at least like it feels this way because like
mhm.
but then again it's like you don't like I want to like caveat it with like that doesn't mean doesn't like don't try or you know or anything. I don't know. Actually, I don't even like talking about like that sort of like topic of movies because then it's like, what are you saying that you don't want that? It's not that I don't want that, but it's like why? It's like why
No.
is everybody always getting like so upset at these filmmakers? Like they made the movie they made. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like I'm sure their intentions weren't overtly like racist. Like
No.
if you want something to get made that is a certain way, like then go make that. But why you gonna be attacking people for just like trying to make you know like they just tried to make the movie that they thought was right, and I'm sure they cast the people they thought were best. Like I'm not sure everything is like a calculated decision. Like it's and it certainly I don't think was racist on J.K. Rowling's part to be
I don't
like
think
you know
so
I
either.
like you know I had an Asian woman, then I made her. You know, I had like she put in an Asian woman, and then the woman became a snake, and like the controversy was like, oh, you're saying like Asian women turn to snakes or something? Like, what? Like, how's that
Was
a
I supposed to imply
stereo?
something?
Yeah,
And then she came
how's
out
that like
like
a stereotype?
she came out back. She's like, "Oh, this is a metaphor for like other, characters in Chinese culture and
It's part of Eastern
their mythology."
mythology. Yeah,
Yeah, and like that's irrelevant because what these it's ultimately about getting clicks on web pages.
yeah. People
Uh,
just want to be upset, you know.
yeah, man. I like to imagine the reason that there's not more diversity in Blade Runner is because all those people got the fuck out of Earth.
Yeah.
They saw this and like, oh, you know what? You white people can have this. We're good.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Jupiter.
But you know, actually, the thing about the J.K. Rowling thing is that the sort of thing that makes people like directors or producers in movies probably more skittish of like diversity. You know, because they're like, oh crap, it's like if I have an Asian woman in my film and I make her do something, you know, if I make her bad or in any way sort of like morally complex, it's like all of a sudden it's like you're feeding into a negative stereotype. You know, like
I think
I think
this
people
is.
like have that like that honest fear. It's
Mhm.
just like this is the other thing where people, you know, that's another like issue I've heard brought up with like a lot of cases of like sexual like harassment where it's like then people start to get like skittish of like oh man do I want to you know like take on like these like women if they can just make claims and you know that are not totally verified and we're in a culture where you have to believe all women and then you get destroyed for it. I mean I'm not saying you know they're right not to hire women or people because of that. I'm just saying like people start to
It's
make those calculations in their head now like it
yeah.
makes them skittish like you create a culture of fear around that sort of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not like they're doing it because like, oh, I don't want to hire any women, or I'd imagine so. But like that with the press being all like all these sexual like Yanni don't speak good. with all these allegations. Wow, I finally get the word. Ding ding ding. With
Yeah,
all these
I mean,
allegations
yeah.
and everything's that going in the press, I totally see how like a new employer bringing on either a woman or a colored person, or a person of color properly, uh, to second guess like, oh, maybe this could like backfire in the future, which is kind of a messed up idea
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not right, but it's like, that's just like the way people are going to start to think. Like, people care
Yeah.
about themselves, like, first and foremost, like they want to protect themselves and they think that's the best way to insulate themselves. Like, that's the decision some people are going to make. Like, unfortunately, if you create like a thing of fear around,
When
around everything.
when it comes to film, I think it's just narratively. If it fits narratively, if the story takes place in like Alaska, makes sense to have everyone white, as a white person. If that's
Yeah.
narratively where the culture. If it's in Africa, doesn't make sense to have all white people. If it's in China, it doesn't make sense to have all white people.
Yeah, like
If the
Mulan
story,
should be, he should definitely not be a white girl.
yeah, don't. And I highly doubt Disney will do it. They're not gonna
No,
like
they won't.
Avatar: The Last Airbender whitewash it in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Because like I think because with those it's part of the story, it's part of the culture, and like that's what I brought Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was one of the biggest things that people had a complaint. It wasn't the fact that they whitewashed the cast; they whitewashed the character. They almost eliminated essentially the whole cultural background of the character. They didn't express it, which is such a deep-rooted thing in those characters.
Yeah.
And then it's completely different from the type of whitewashing that people were labeling Ghost in the Shell when Jennifer Lawrence was hired, and the reality that she
Was
was
that any
hired.
good, by the way? The Ghost in the Shell? I didn't even. It
I
wasn't. You
enjoyed
mean
it.
Scarlett Johansson, by the way?
Scarlett Johansson, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I enjoyed it, but it was essentially you're better off watching the animated movie, which is essentially what it is.
Okay.
They took the best parts of that film are literally the shot for shot remakes from the animated movie from the 90s.
Hmm.
But what I was trying to get to with the whitewashing and the parallel of that film was that the reason Scarlett Johansson was casted for that, they kept the character the same for the most part, but the difference in that whitewashing is that she was